Hello, Year 7. Uh, this slide shows the main tasks which you need to complete for this lesson. So there are 3 questions which all sets need to complete, and then an extension which members of set 1 must also complete for me, please. The explanation on the following 2 slides, which link to the maps, will help you to answer questions 1 to 3. So please read these questions, then listen to my video explanations, which will help you to answer questions 1, 2, and 3 into your books. Everybody then needs to complete the Black Death quiz on Teams so you can show us your understanding of the topic so far. Hello, Year 7. The information that I will go through on these 2 slides, which are 2 maps, will help you to answer the 3 main questions that you need to complete for this lesson. The first one is where the Black Death actually began. So we're going to start with that one. The original cause of the medieval disease was a medieval disease which could be found in a population of wild rodents in the Soviet Republic of Turkestan, which is in present-day China. So hopefully all of you can see the cursor that is now moving on the slide. So it's in the, I'm just highlighting China there for you, as in this is the origin area of the Black Death. The disease at this point was enzootic, which means that it only actually impacted animals at this early stage. The people who lived in China, in this area here, were actually nomadic, which meant they didn't have one fixed home. They moved around. And so that actually limited infection because there wasn't overcrowding and they weren't living in areas where the rodents could develop. So they were nomadic and they were always on the move. So that actually limited infection. Okay, if you can pause the video at this point and complete the first question, which is about where the Black Death began. So in your book, you should be writing the Black Death began in, and then you complete it. So pause this video and complete question 1 for me, please. The next question focuses on how the disease goes from China here all the way to Britain, which is obviously a huge distance. So how does it cross such a big difference? Well, the key was trade routes. So a trade route called the Silk Road, and I'm highlighting the start of it here in the green. The Silk Road connected Europe to China. So you can see the connection to China here, and it goes across the landmass here, and then I'm at the edge of the map, but it would keep going and keep going, and it would get to Europe. So this is a huge trade route which focused on silk, hence is the Silk Road. So this led this kind of route to become full of traffic. More and more people would be coming and going from China so that they could do business. Towns, particularly in Italy, were anxious that they wanted to be trading and doing business in China. So many of the Italian connections or Italian traders and merchants would be travelling up and down this route. And so when you've got people travelling such long distances for trade, you get towns because people have to stop along the route and they have to have a rest and have food. So we begin to see towns and towns developing all along this route here. That increases infection because people are more crowded, they're living more close together, and that's when you get the prevalence of the rodents, or the infection can spread more quickly. So people living on these trade routes and in these new towns became more vulnerable to the infection. Now, if everyone can look at the slide, they can see my cursor circling this area here. So in 1338 to 39, there's a Christian cemetery at this town, Iziq-Kul, and here we see the first appearance of the Black Death actually killing human people. So there's 3 headstones in the cemetery here that identify plague as the cause of death. But at this point, the plague is actually only moving, as you can see here, over the land, over the landmass. But it actually first reaches the sea further on here at the Black Sea, and I'm circling that for you here. So the plague will eventually reach this point, and this is the port of Kaffa, which will be somewhere around here. Obviously, the map's a little bit more basic, but the port of Kaffa on the edge of the Black Sea. Now, this area at that time was actually run by the Genoese. Genoese were Italians, so essentially, this is an area that is influenced strongly by the Italians. But this area, this is the first area, the first port that the Black Death actually hits at Kaffa. Now, later on in 1343 to 1345, the town is actually attacked by Khan, the Mongol leader in the Mongolia. So they've travelled over here and then attacked the town here. And he actually used the bodies of plague victims in Kaffa as biological bombs. So he would actually use those bodies to infect his enemies. Now, once it had infected here, the port of Kaffa on the Black Sea, the Italians always traded from here, crossed the Black Sea, and then went on into Europe. So the plague will now spread from here further across into Europe following the Italian trade routes. So if you could now move the slide to the next map, which more focuses on Europe, and I will continue to go through the information on that slide. Okay, so we know that the Black Death is actually transmitted in the infected bite of fleas. So the disease is actually in the gut of the flea bites, and then it spreads from there. And we know that the fleas, this would also move from the flea to rats, because fleas can often be found around rats, and then onto the fleas would live on the rats, and then they could move on to people or other hosts for the disease from there. So we have to imagine that with all of these people moving back and forth along this trade route and living in the towns, that this is a much more ideal environment for fleas and for people close together to get bitten, and then to pass the infection to each other from there. So if we return then to this area here, which is this is the Black Sea here in the port of Kaffa. So as I said before, the Italians would cross here, or the Italian traders, it's lots of different traders, but so the traders would then cross here, reach Constantinople, which is present day Istanbul in Turkey, and then from there you've got various routes that you can go into Europe, whether that is overland or you can then start to take these sea routes through the Mediterranean, which were also very popular. So from here, the Black Death is going to spread overland, but also it's going to start to spread by sea. So how this works is essentially it will leap from port to port. So it will infect one port, and then as the ships carrying, say, the rats with the infected fleas goes to the next port, and then the sailors might disembark, they might go off into the local town, and then it spreads from there. So this is where you can see the progress of the plague spreading with these arrows here. So it will come out of the Mediterranean, and then it hits Naples, and then it goes up to infect North Italy and Genoa, Marseille, Barcelona, Valencia, and on and on and on. So it sort of hops from one port to the other. And again, this is through the movement of boats, people, all of which will have the infection that is being spread. It does limit in colder months, so it dies down in colder months and then flares up again in the spring and the summer months. So from 1347, it's moving north across Europe, and then it's actually from infection at Bordeaux. Trading ships leave there, and again, I'm showing this to you on the screen. They leave there and land on the south coast of England at a place called Weymouth in Dorset, and this is in June 1348. So merchant ships, trading ships from Bordeaux, travel infected ships travel to the south coast of London, land at Weymouth in June 1348, and this is the start of the Black Death arriving into England. Once it lands, it is then going to sort of spread and ravage the area, as we will see in the coming lessons. We will see the impact of that. So key points then, so it is arriving here from these Silk Roads from China. Kaffa is that first port on the Black Sea that it hits. It then spreads across here to Constantinople, and then there's land and sea routes in which the infection spreads into Europe, moving from one port to the next and overland as well. And then we get infected from ships in Bordeaux coming to the south coast of England. So if you could now look at question 2, which is looking at how did the Black Death spread from China to England? So your sentence should begin, the Black Death spread from China by, and then try and complete that, maybe using words such as trade routes, ports, and all of the words that I've used in this discussion. So please pause the video and complete question 2, please. Okay, finally question 3, which is to identify 3 to 5 cities which the Black Death spread to. I have mentioned numerous ones during the discussion, but as I'm circling here, you can see there are many, many names of cities that I am circling or showing here on the screen that you could include in your answers. So 3 to 5 cities that you will need to answer. So your answer might begin, the Black Death spread to the following cities, and then you will list and name them. So could you now stop this video or pause this video and complete question 3, please. Okay, set 1 will need to independently complete the extension question for me, please. Aim to write a short paragraph on that, and then everybody will need to now complete the quiz on the Black Death on Teams. So this is 10 questions, which is just to give you an opportunity to show us your understanding and what you've learnt on the Black Death so far. So please complete that on Teams, and if you've got any questions or you're still struggling, please use the Ask the Teacher channel, and I will get back and help you as soon as I can. Okay, you can now stop this video.